Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cricket Nerds podcast. Just me and James today. Zach's, don't know where he is. He's just not available, going to bed early. Cry, cry, cry. Anyway, there's been lots of cricket recently. James, have you been watching all the cricket recently?
Absolutely. Even the cricket that's been cancelled.
Yes.
So yeah, we haven't actually had as much cricket as we'd want. It seemed like everything was getting rained off the other day. My game on a Saturday got rained off. Zach's did. Yours did eventually.
It wasn't rained off. It wasn't rained off. The opposition deemed the pitch dangerous and wouldn't play because none of them had helmets. And apparently our bowling was too dangerous for them. So less said about that. This
is by the by. But India, South Africa was rained off.
Yes.
And so it meant that none of us were right. Unfortunately, our predictions, me and you predicted that it would be 3-2 India in the series.
Yep.
Zach predicted it would be 3-2 South Africa. We will never know who is cleverest. However, there are lessons learned. There are some interesting questions that can be posed because, namely because of who isn't there actually, who wasn't there in those teams. Because if we think of South Africa, for example, so they opened up with Temba and Quinton de Kock most of the time. Temba Bavuma, he's a bit of an anchor. He's not really someone that's going to give you that much impetus at the top of the order. So there's potentially a question mark above his name. Like, is he the best opening option? Would you rather have someone like Heinrich Klaassen or Aiden Markram even? Like, there are a few more options there. There are also questions about where does Markram slot in? Like, do you take one of the bowlers out? You've got questions about up-and-comers such as Tristan Stubbs, who is in a very good vein of domestic form, but he hasn't had a bat yet for South Africa, I don't think. And he's someone that South Africa have got a wealth of middle order batsmen. Like, you got Van der Dussen, Markram, Miller, Klaassen, and probably some more that I can't remember right now. So does Stubbs even fit in? And then they've got bowling questions because Ngidi bowled like an absolute legend, and Nortje has been out of touch since he got injured. So does Ngidi overtake Nortje? Do you think that Nortje has got the potential there for you stick with him more? Like, there are a few question marks. So we'll stick with South Africa first. Like, just pick any of those questions.
There's a lot of questions there. There's a lot of questions there. And I think one thing for me that it highlights at the minute is that South African cricket has struggled with for a while on relying on a set number of players. If you go back a few years, since the era of Callis, de Villiers, Morkel, that ilk of players, they've struggled to get a group that they can rely on and have and developing other players, because they had so many match winners in that side. Everyone else sort of stood around not doing much. And I think that has meant that they've not had a massive pool of players to look at. And straight away with this South African side, especially with the T20 World Cup just round the corner, I think they're in a really great place because they've got such a good amount of players that they can call on. As you say, Aiden Markram will probably slot straight back into this side after his bout of COVID-19. Potentially he's an option. I'd like to see him up, as you briefly mentioned, at the top of the order, maybe with Quinton de Kock opening if Bavuma's injured, and then sort of maybe put Bavuma down a little bit longer, if a bit further down, maybe at 3 if he's back. I think the Pretorius experiment, let's leave it there. Let's not carry it on. Let's have him come down later on. Let's just leave that there it is. And then, they've got that strong middle order of Van der Dussen, Klaassen and David Miller. I think also a player to shout out is Deval Brevis. Like, I think he had a fantastic IPL, and he'll also be knocking on that door. And then in terms of bowling options, I think with Rabada and Ngidi and a Pretorius or a I forgot the other guy's name, the tall guy.
Wayne Parnell.
Wayne Pot. No,
No, you're thinking of Marco Jansen.
Marco Jansen as well. They've got enough options with seam bowling. So then I think potentially playing Maharaj alongside Shamsi with a bit of Markham in there as well gives that bowling depth. So yeah, there are a lot of questions, especially sort of around looking from this series, who's going to make that T20 World Cup side that's only 4 months away now. Only 4 months away. So yeah, that'll be super interesting. As you say, shame that the series was rained off, because it would have been good to see how that would finish. But there are also, I would say, a lot of questions around that Indian T20I team, because you've got a number of players that didn't play. There was no Kohli, there was no Rohit, there was no there was no Ishan. There was no
KL Rahul. Is that the one you're thinking of?
KL Rahul. And then bowling wise, there was no oh, come on, how have I forgotten his name? Shami and Bumrah. So a lot of players missing out there who you would assume would all come back into this side. And maybe a few of the guys who played will miss their spot. I think Captain Rishabh, let's end that experiment too. Let's end that there. But I think the positive from this series is it showcased a lot of players. I mean, is DK back? One of the best finishers in the whole world. But do you think DK will get into that T20I squad? I mean,
I
there's
hope so.
There.
I want to pick up that question, because I hope he does. If he carries on this form, it would be criminal for them not to. There are a few players just in the world that, like, no matter what country you're from, you quite like seeing them get runs. Like, they're just likable people, or just, you root for them no matter what happens. Dinesh Karthik is one of those people. I think Joe Root is potentially one. Like, he's so good that when you watch him, you're like, yeah, that's cool. I'm more than happy for you to get some runs. Who else? Johnny Bairstow, I think he gets it. Most of Sri Lanka, actually. I quite like Sri Lanka as a team. So, I'm pulling this from nowhere. This is just my intangible feelings that I am associating with everybody, and everybody must share my feelings. But that's also fact, because I'm saying it. And yeah, so, like, DK is someone that we like, the fans like him, and he's been amazing. So more power to him. Let's keep him going. But because DK is doing so well at the moment, and you've got other players like Hardik Pandya from this series, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar.
Yeah, he had a series, didn't he? He had a proper good series.
Amazing series. You've got those players that basically guarantee their spots because they're just so good. Ishan Kishan is another one that's looking really good. I don't think that RishabPant is in the top 7 T20 batsmen in India right now.
Wow.
Now,
is that again, captain? Right. No, I've got a question here. Is that captain RishabPant or RishabPant of 2020?
I think, well, I mean, I think you have to go on current form. So no matter what's happened, he's captained a lot. But I think just looking at the way he's batted, he seems like a person that's a bit lost, a bit like DK actually a couple of years ago, where he was just somebody that he wasn't sure what his role was. Like, he's coming in at 4, but is he a finisher, or is he meant to be like anchoring a bit? And he kind of does both and neither. So I think RishabPant without a purpose is not worth having in the team. And unless you're going to rebrand him as a finisher and stick him in lower, like sort of round 6, which I think he could potentially do really well there. I don't think he is, like I say, in the top 7 batsmen in T20 for India.
Oh.
So it's a big call, maybe.
That's a big call, yeah.
Yeah, I think the nice thing for India is that they could probably just pluck 11 players that played more than 10 games in the IPL, and they've almost guaranteed themselves a very solid squad. So, it's it's nice to be an Indian selector, I think, but also you're spoiled for choice, and you're almost guaranteed to make a wrong decision somewhere because you've just got so many good options.
So we jump to the Northern Hemisphere and let's come in to Europe, and we're going to land in the Netherlands because there's been some cricket there as well. Second ODI between England and the Netherlands, and this was a little bit less record-breaking than the first ODI, a bit more tame. Netherlands batted first this time and put up a respectable 235 for 7, I think, off their 50. Actually, it wasn't. It was 41 because it was rain affected.
Yes,
some changes for the Netherlands. Peter Seelar's out because he got himself injured. So Scott Edwards came up to be the captain and played a very fine captain's knock of 79 before he got run out. And yeah, that was a bit of a shame. But England, again, no discredit to the Netherlands, but they're not the toughest opposition in the whole world. So England looked quite comfortable again in chasing that down. I want to say, though, on good selection problems to have, I think England are probably in a similar issue where they've got so many white ball batsmen and so many white ball bowlers right now. I mean, Bryden Cast is even throwing his hat into the ring. Right arm pace, because he looked class and he was rapid. Not quite Umar Malik rapid, but like very good pace rapid for an English bowler. So yeah, I mean, it was a good game. James, what were your highlights of that game?
I'd say the main talking point, the main things that we can kind of discuss and learn lessons about are Roy getting back in the runs. Like Roy and Salt, Salt is looking very good. I'm liking Salt a lot. Phil Salt, that is. I'm thinking Morgan going out for another duck, this time a 7-ball duck. And what else am I thinking? I'm thinking you're right in that we've got a hell of a lot of bowling depth just in the country. We're producing a lot of good bowlers, which is exciting. It's good to see. And you're right, Bryden Cast, he's got a bit of pace about him, which we need pace bowlers because we break them. We produce a fair few medium fast bowlers and we break them all. So, we just got to keep them coming, just churn them around. We've got a big conveyor belt of as soon as they come out of injury, they'll maybe play a few games, get a stressy, and then be out for another year. But exciting stuff. Another thing I really liked, David Malan needing one run off the last over, I think it was, and going facing off a maiden. That was fun. So actually quite good bowling from Netherlands, and they've got reason to be cheerful because they put up far more of a fight this time, and they're quite an exciting squad.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Butler didn't bat.
I was going to say, yeah, Butler didn't bat. So is there a bit of an injury concern with him? Maybe. But actually, something I want to pick up on before we kind of go into any of those questions, because actually I think they lead on to cricket nerds questions.
Wow.
I know, that was the best segue ever. Our first cricket nerds question concerns this England ODI squad. It is from Mugaray-san Vivekanandan. And he has said, I have a question, boys. Why has Joe Root not been in the England ODI squad for about a year? Is it because he is busy with Test cricket, or is he dropped? Ben, do you want to have a go answer this one?
It's interesting. I think Root now will potentially struggle to get into that ODI squad. I know that's crazy to say, but I think he would. I don't think he has a role there because David Malan is that sort of number 3, anchor type of role. So whether you need a Root in that setup as well to do the same role, who knows? I think the obvious answer is he what hasn't been involved in ODI for a while because of just the sheer amount of cricket that England have been playing, and the fact that he's been the Test captain, having to play every single Test match. There's just not a lot of time, enough time in the calendar for that to happen, especially with the added COVID bubbles. You can't just fly in and out of camps. I mean, it's opening up more now, and potentially with Root being, relieved of the England captaincy for Test matches, he might get back into the ODI squad and just focus on his batting. I'll be honest, I think Root is a class one-day batter, and he could be, show some of that test match flair in the one-day game. I mean, you saw him hit a reverse scoop in a Test match. So, let's not think for a second that Root hasn't got his white ball game. I just think he's had a break from it for a while he's been the England captain. I, for one, would like to see him back in that side. I would like Morgan. I'm going to say it. I'd like Morgan to be out of it and give the captaincy to Moeen or Josh Butler. And then, just allow Root to be in that setup and to be sort of a senior player in that setup. Having said that also, Owen Morgan's only one good innings away from everyone saying, oh, yeah, he still got it. On the other hand, too. What do you think about Root, though, James?
I think it's an interesting one. I kind of agree with you in that Root doesn't really have a purpose there. So, and I almost think it's better for him to not play, because I'd rather he just is in that Test mindset, because Test is the greatest form of the game. It is the highest caliber, and it is for the best players. So personally, I think don't overload him with cricket. Let him just play Test matches. Let him be the greatest Test batsman that England's produced, and instead let just carry on with this kind of Morgan mentality of England ODI cricket, which is absolutely leather the ball. Maybe you're a bit you see it off for the first 10 overs and then you just go to town, and it's exciting to see. And I think you're right that Milan kind of fills the role of the anchor. Yeah. Moeen can anchor if he wants to, and he comes down later. So that there's just so much depth.
As a counterpoint to that, if Root is one of your best batters, you should pick your best players. And I would say at the minute,
I don't know if he is the best for white ball.
I'd say he's better than Milan at white ball, and could easily fill that Milan spot and probably do it a bit better. But that's just.
But I also think that you've got people like Johnny Bairstow and Ben Stokes.
Yeah.
That
although Stokes has come out and said that he's going to play less white ball cricket because he's going to focus more on Test match cricket. So it'll be interesting to see that. But yeah, it's a good question, a good issue to have. Are there any more cricket questions?
There are. We'll try and whiz through these a bit quicker. Just a shout out to Ruben Loganathan, who also agrees that RishabPant is not in good form in T20, so doesn't deserve a place in the World Cup squad. Ruben Loganathan also disagrees with us about Morgan being dropped. He says, it's the problem with English fans. They don't appreciate having a brilliant captain. There is value in a very good captain. Our argument is that Morgan isn't providing anything as a player at the moment. So could his role as a mentor and a tactical genius be better suited in retirement as a coach or something in that England setup? That's kind of where we're at, because he's just, there are so many decent players that also could be captain for England. You named two, Moeen and Josh Butler, and it's very true. They definitely could do it. What was the other one? We've had, here we go. Shail Jarnand Jar. I'm sorry if I butchered these names. He says, cricket nose question. Do you think if Butler gets to open in ODIs, he can break Rohit Sharma's record of 264 not out and maybe even get 300? He's got the ability to destroy bowling attacks and do it for sustained, extensively long periods of time. What's your opinion?
I have absolutely no reason to believe he couldn't. I think Josh Butler is just such a good player that anything is possible for him. The only thing for me is I actually quite like him coming in that number 4 slot. That was for me his perfect place, because the new ball that swings has been seen off a bit, and he can just stand there on a good length, know where it's coming. It's going to be dead straight, and just shows a mass class in hitting.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I think also the comfort of just knowing that you've got like one of the greatest ever white ball players coming in at 2 down. It's exciting being an England fan watching white ball cricket, especially ODIs for that reason, because you've got someone of the class of Joss Butler and he's not even opening for you. You've got amazing openers like Bairstow, Phil Salt, and Jason Roy. And then you've got David Milan, who is a very good player. And yeah, it goes on from there. So it's exciting. I think that's it for Cricket Nerds questions. Please send in more. We love answering them.
Yeah.
And just send in any other comments, any sort of observations. We read them all. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. We will talk again very soon about more cricket. So follow our social medias. We are at Cricket Nerds Pod. You can also listen to our podcasts when you're out and about on your commutes. So we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, and many more.
Wow.
Yes, I know. It's been a long day. Been a long pod. So yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe.